Blackout, also known as Nietzsche, was a developer best known for creating Dormitabus, which was released in February 2018. It is an AU of FNaF 1-4 set in Purgatory. The version of Dormitabus we got was actually very different to what the game was originally going to be like. Dormitabus began development in November 2015. It was originally going to be a point-and-click free-roam game. It was cancelled in January 2016 after it reached ClickTeam's limitations. It restarted development later in 2016 and had become the Dormitabus we all know today. Dormitabus was actually one of the only free games that Blackout actually finished, not including any of the games she helped out with. One of them was Fazbear Fright Reborn, which was a joke game released on April 1st, 2015. In June 2015, one of Blackout's friends, Toreador, was going to turn the game into a free roam game. However, 2 weeks later, the game's page was abandoned. The other game that was finished was Insanity, which was made in collaboration with Salvage. It was released in Halloween 2015. The game actually had 8 cancelled sequels and remakes. The first was Insanity 2. There's not much known about the game, other than it began development sometime in 2015, shortly after the release of the first game. Then there was Insanity 2 Origins, which is going to take place at Fredbear's Family Diner. The game was cancelled in January 2016. Following its cancellation, an unfinished build was released. There was another attempt just titled Insanity 2. There's also not much known about this game, with there only being a few teasers released. Then there was Insanity 2 Basement. This game would have the toy animatronic instead of the original insane animatronics. There also isn't much known about this game, with there only being a few teasers released. The rest of the Insanity games are going to be remakes, with the first attempt being Insanity Reincarnated, which began development in late 2015. There's little information known about it. The next one would be Insanity 2.0, which began development in March 2016. This was going to have some of the planned characters for Insanity 2 Origins. Then there was Insanity Remastered, which began development in August 2016. The game was apparently going to have a tie-in with Dormitabus. There was also the insane Misadventures of Freddy & Co., which was going to be a FNaF World-like spin-off of Insanity, which began development in early 2016. And the last attempt was with Crawl Space, which is going to be made in collaboration with Stellar Wisps. The game began development in November 2016. This was also going to have Dormitabus tie-ins. It was also intended on being really disturbing, similar to how Dormitabus turned out. The game was cancelled not long after it began development. Do you think that I'm done talking about the cancelled Blackout games? Not even close. There's 25 other cancelled Blackout games. One of them was United Universes, formerly known as Fangame World, which was made in collaboration with Hero Golem. It began development in late 2015. It was going to be a crossover with several other FNaF fan games, such as The Return to Freddy's, Those Nights at Rachel's, Five Nights at Candy's, and there would have been more that we don't know about. It is believed that the game would have been a FNaF World-like game, but we don't know for sure. There was also an unreleased Dormitabus teaser game called Cake. There isn't much known about it other than that it would feature Cake Bear. It was first teased in December 2015. Another one was a crappy edit at Freddy's. Nothing is known about it other than that it was going to be a joke game. Another game was Fazbear Arcade. Again, not much is known about it. It was teased in September 2015. It had 8-bit sprites, so it might have been an RPG or platformer. Another game was Freddy Fazbear Simulator, which began development sometime in 2015. It was going to be a FNaF simulator game where you play as a FNaF 1 animatronics. There was also Fazbear Haunting, also known as Fazbear's Fright, which began development in March 2015. It was going to take place after the events of FNaF 3. There was also a game called Grinder. Its development wasn't made public until after it was cancelled. It has been speculated that the game was going to have some relation to Dormitabus. Another game was Illusion, which yet again has barely information on it. It began development in 2015. The thumbnail has an animatronic who is speculated to be the same animatronic in the Grinder teaser. There was also an animation, which began development in 2018. It was apparently going to be a very ambitious FNaF fan game, although it's unknown what the game actually would have been about though. There was also a game called Salvaged. There's literally no information on this game. The only surviving detail of the game is the thumbnail. Another game was Location 83, which would have took place in an original location called Aiden Alligator's Pizza Place. There's a few images that shows the game's location. There's also Fazbear Factory, also known as the Rebirth of Freddy's, which began development in June 2015. There's also no information on this game. Another game that Blackout and Salvage worked on was a FNaF 4 fan game called The Last Chapter, which began development in mid-2015. A teaser game was released titled TLC 1987. There was also One Fucking Night at Flumpty's, which was going to be a parody RPG of One Night at Flumpty's. This actually got released as a demo in April 2015. The demo is now lost. There was another comedy RPG game called The Adventures of Fazbear Fucking Factory. Once again, not much is known about it. Blackout also began making several Five Nights at Treasure Island fan games. One of them was a remake of Stellar Wisp's cancelled game Nightmare Before Disney. It began development in June 2016. Like most of Blackout's cancelled games, it was cancelled early on in development and not much is known about it. There was also Five Nights at Treasure Island 4.0, which was mainly developed by Stellar Wisp with help from Blackout. That game was cancelled, and following its cancellation, Blackout wanted to continue the game herself with Five Nights at Treasure Island 4.5. Not much is known about it. There was also Scrapped, which was going to be a sequel to Five Nights at Treasure Island 4.0. There's nothing known about it, there isn't even any images available. One FNaF game did actually make it into development, that being Treasure Island 0. There was actually 2 demos released for the game, both of which are now lost. There were 2 nights in the second demo. Blackout was disappointed with what Anart's 5th version of Five Nights at Treasure Island was looking like, and wanted to remake it with Malrat. Like other FNaF games though, there's not much information available. There was also going to be a direct sequel to Dormitabus, titled The 0 Hour. It began development in 2018. It was going to have a multiplayer mode and a custom night. There was also going to be achievements. The story was also going to be slightly rewritten. Before its eventual cancellation, the game was redone several times. Despite how much was planned for the game, it never actually got released in any shape or form, so it's believed that not much of the game was actually programmed. The office and animatronic models were made. The game was considered cancelled at some point after a lot of developers lost motivation. 2 developers, the Sparky556 and Only Trick, wants to continue development. Now it's time to address the elephant in the room. In November 2020, Blackout was exposed for being a paedophile as well as other bad stuff. Blackout completely left the internet after this. In 2021, Only Trick lost interest in Dormitabus, and shortly afterwards, Sparky stopped working on the game.